Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we are here with Kristina Montague from the JumpFund. Kristina, how are you doing? Great to see you.
I'm doing great. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Well, listen, we want to get into the topic of today's conversation is really going to be around like women's investing, right? And we've chatted a little bit about it previously, but could you just share maybe like a 5-minute background of who you are and what you do and kind of what got you to this point?
Sure. I am the managing partner of the JumpFund. We are a women-led early stage venture fund. We call it a micro VC fund here in the Southeast US. So I'm based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we started the fund about 11 years ago. Our first fund, and it was really just around the pain point is we were not seeing women on demo stages. We were not seeing women in the audience as investors and trying to figure out just in our own backyard how to solve for that. That grew into a much larger sort of pursuit of how do we solve this on a nationwide level. And so we have the Jump Fund. We have two funds out of that were majority women investors investing in women-led companies in the Southeast. From there, I became part of Next Wave Impact Fund, which is another fund that's all women investing in impact ventures, and then Mindshift Capital, which is a global gender lens fund. And from there, I've become very involved with the Angel Capital Association. So I am now incoming chair of that group, which is the largest professional network of angel investors, early stage investors in the US.
Nice. And can we go back even a little bit further? Like what's the story pre-investing? Are you a founder yourself or what's the story
Yes, absolutely not. No, I came to this through a path actually as an educator, and then at the university I was an assistant dean in our business school, and really seeing the pain point firsthand, seeing young women coming through who were either entrepreneurship or finance majors who were interested in starting their own companies and really not finding a good sort of support system for them coming out of the university. Scratch my head, like, why is that? I've made a path for myself. Why can these women not find that? So that just sort of led to the larger question. And we really feel like most entrepreneurs, there was a problem that was staring us in the face, and we had to get together and try to solve for that. So yeah, my background's in education. It's not in finance. The good thing is there are 7 of us in our GP group, our general partner, and with a wide variety of experience. So I have a couple people from finance, some from HR, a couple entrepreneurs. And so we make just this really great team to having built this. None of us were venture capitalists though. So that was not the experience we had. And so we literally, like my book says, we jumped into this just feet first and called ourselves the Jump Fund because we wanted to say to other women, like, we need to jump into this. This is an opportunity that we think all women should take advantage of.
Yeah, and it is, really kind of huge problem, I guess, but also like that represents a huge opportunity. I think you said, 2-3% of money is invested in female founders in VC. That's what's the scale of this problem?
Well, it's been kind of stagnated at that since we started our fund. It actually was at 3% and now it's 2.2%. But that's overall venture capital. And actually, when you peel back the layers, close to 30% of early stage capital, so really where we play more in this sort of angel investing space. In the US, that's really the kind of seed, or sometimes depends on the part of the country you're in, Series A, like really, or even some pre-seed. Those early stage dollars, that has really grown, and that is about 30% female founded companies. And then if you look at gender diverse teams, so if you look at co-founders where there's a male and female lead, those numbers do go up. But for solo female founders, or not solo, but like who are the founder and CEO, let's say, of a company pitching to VCs, that's still at this kind of stagnating level. So while we've done a lot on the kind of very early stage capital, we're still chipping away at that larger VC capital. But we have seen some movement after 10 plus years of this work. And just starting this little fund, we didn't know that this was we didn't know this was a nationwide problem. We just saw the problem in our backyard, figured the solution was to bring some capital to the table, didn't know how to do that, had what we call a brother fund here. There was another group that was investing just in Chattanooga-based companies, and we sort of followed their same template to start this. And we're kind of off to the races. We got a small, $2.5 million fund together first time, very small, but deployed that capital pretty quickly. Sort of like opening the floodgates here in the Southeast because no one was directing capital to women. And so we had such a huge amount of deal flow come in very quickly, and have a great first portfolio, but I have an even better second portfolio.
Yeah. So, okay, Fund 1, 2.5. Fund 2, are you able to share how big that is? Are you still raising,
Yeah,
or is that
they're
closed?
both pretty small funds, regional funds. So we have a total of 8 million under management across
Okay.
both funds. So it's in the VC world. It's very small. That's why I say micro VC. But for us, that was enough dollars to make a statement and kind of be able to start collaborating with these other networks and funds that we're developing across the U.S. So our forces are really large now. When we started our first fund, only 5% of angel investors in the US were women, and now it's almost 40% of angel
Wow.
investors are women. So, and that is in just a little over 10 years, so just a little over a decade of doing this work. So it was really at a time when I think women were starting to turn their heads toward this asset class and creating our own opportunities to come into it, which has been a really rewarding journey.
I bet, yeah. Well, you said coming from an educational background, you must see a lot of development and have something that you really like value in seeing people progress and change. My mother is a teacher. So I've kind of like grown up in. She teaches early years, like 2 and 3 year olds. But
Wow.
yeah, I've grown up in a. It's a handful, that's for sure. But there's a lot to be said in seeing that progression of people, of founders, of companies, and really being able to help and give back. There's a lot of it's a very like respectable thing to do, very admirable thing to do. Do you think coming from education has that been a strength for you? And are your other GPs all education based as well?
No, not at all. I'm really the only one who does that. But so when we started our first fund, we pretty quickly realized that we wanted to find mentors and educators in this space, and so we joined Golden Seeds, which is the largest network of women investing in women in the U.S. And not only women investors, but the majority. And so we sort of rode their coattails for a while, but then we realized that our LPs were very hungry for that education too. So we did a lot of focus early on, the first couple of years, on educating our LPs on this asset class, everything from how do we do due diligence to how should they even think about bringing a deal to us to what is this kind of patient capital that you've just gotten into and what can you expect. So we did a lot of that early on with our LPs, and then that became somewhat of a template for these other groups that I've been working with, and that we've really found to get women in, you need to provide sort of a base of entry-level education because women as a whole have not been exposed to this asset class. It's a very boys network. It's a word of mouth. It's relationship based. It's, as we talked about earlier, sort of, the boys club of dinner parties and golf courses and that kind of thing. And so how do we create our own spaces and our own education? Because women as a whole tend to want to be sort of smart about something before they're going to deploy their capital. And that helps them sort of de-risk it a little bit. And they're not wholly risk averse, but they feel like they need that to preface being able to get in and fully engage. So that's been really successful for us and a bunch of the other networks I've been involved with or funds I've been involved with. So yes, that's all to say that my education background actually really came in handy. And, that's why I wrote the book, to help kind of proliferate that kind of knowledge and education. It's just sort of like the learning by doing model that we've been practicing for a while now.
Interesting. We'll get onto the book in a minute. Don't worry. A little teaser there. But what is it? Let's dive into the educational piece for a minute. How are you going about? Do you have a model for educating women founders? What are some of the problems they're facing, and how are you going about, as you say, educating them?
So actually, it was educating women angels is
Oh,
really what ours was. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. We have done, I think there is a lot to be said for, we at the Angel Capital Association do a lot of work on angel education. And a lot of the people who come through that are founders, because founders, they need access to capital, but they don't understand sort of the capital continuum. They don't understand how they would even position themselves, or if they are a right fit for early stage capital. What are other sort of financial structures they could be looking at instead of equity or debt financing by early stage investors. So that has been something we definitely have done. Our early days, we also had a lot of office hours we hosted for entrepreneurs. Golden Seed still hosts office hours on a regular basis. A lot of these groups do, just to really demystify this and make sure you're a right fit. So just to clarify, this was more education for the investors themselves because, again, they had not been exposed to this asset class. And so why would they jump into something that they had no exposure to and no knowledge about?
I see. So thinking about some of the founders that you invest in through Jump, how do you go about helping them? What does a typical journey look like? If a founder comes in, if you've invested in them in their business, what does it look like after that?
Yeah, so we were always much more about just writing that check. They were small check sizes compared to sort of larger venture capital, but they were the seed, checks that they needed. Sometimes we were the larger seed, check, and sometimes we were kind of along some other angels. But often we would join the board, not always, but even if we didn't join the board, we have stayed really close to a lot of our founders, particularly the ones who've been most successful now, and provide that sounding board that they're not going to get anywhere else because the majority of their investors are male and they have unique things that come up for them that they frankly would rather talk to women about. And one case in point is that, I think almost to a woman, all of our founders have been having or raising children while they are growing their companies. This is something that scares VCs, but is actually a very doable thing. We women do it very successfully across all forms of business and leadership. But, that's definitely a unique journey. And so we talk about that. We celebrate that. We lean into that. We've had, HR issues, people trying to diversify their teams and really struggling with that. We have a company that's in the clean tech space. And, a lot of these spaces that these women are in, whether it's finance or clean tech or otherwise, might be also very male dominated. And so I like to say that each of my GPs has different superpowers. And one of my GPs has been in really the human resources field, particularly with tech companies. She came through a large consulting firm here called Mercer and then launched her angel journey. And so she's been very close to our companies, helping them build out those teams and trying to find beyond just diversity, how do you find the best people, but knowing that they want to have more women on their team, knowing that they want to have more diversity on their team, helping them find a path to doing that and asking the right questions and looking under the rocks you might not otherwise look under. So we have really dug in deep with a lot of our teams. Helped, some of them with their journey, getting them the right consultants, leading them through that. A lot like any VC would probably do with one of their portfolio companies, but it was a little different, unique relationship that we were entering in the ground level as women with other women. So it sort of had a different dynamic there for us as, just filling that role. That they might just call us up and ask a question that's somewhat unrelated to the business, but something they needed support with. So
yeah. And it's just having that, I guess that shared journey. Or I've spoken to a few VCs spoke to Yulia Khan I think it was at Golden Seeds as well. We talked a little bit about like community and what community means. And one of the biggest things that she highlighted was that there's some either a common cause or there's like a common means or like a common thread between everyone who's in a community. And so that sounds a little bit like what you're explaining there in terms of, just being able to call up another woman who's built another business and just ask a question that's maybe not specifically related to like a traditional VC type advice.
Yes.
But it's just more general. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned so distributed from Fund 1, you didn't have a problem finding founders at all. How did founders kind of come to you? How did those deals come across? Do you struggle to find any deals? Was it a quality issue? Yeah, what did that look like?
Yeah, so early on, it really was, we planted a flag in the ground and it was like opening the floodgates because women had not expressly had, in our region, in the Southeast US, had not expressly had a source of capital like ours. Even just, the $100,000 to $250,000 checks, like that was something completely new. So we had a lot to sort through because, a lot were not capital ready and not a lot were not really right fits for us. We always wanted to find companies that we could add that additional value to, as we just spoke of. So some just were not right fits given kind of our group's expertise. Then as we developed a second fund, really a lot of those came through referrals because of the network that we'd started to develop. So we saw a lot more companies through these angel investor networks and early stage networks where people who were also gender lens investors were seeing deals. We were also able to bring our deals to those tables as well. So it was a lot of great deal sharing there. So, it's always good to have other investors coming in. At the angel level, you want more angels in the deal and kind of vetting it alongside you. VCs tend to want to take, the majority of the company, but we're a little more collaborative because we don't always have enough capital to see these companies. So we need more players. So I think the first was really we had a platform that we used to vet them. It is around no longer for angels. It was called Proseeder at the time. I don't know if you ever heard of Proseeder back in the day, but it was similar to like a Dealum or one of these sort of seed capital platforms for vetting and sharing deals. Golden Seeds actually first sort of launched that platform with Proseeder, and so we used their similar platform for deal flow. And we did see some referrals from Golden Seed, so that was nice. We had that relationship and we were able to kind of send deals outside of the Southeast. So we had kind of a double bias going on for our companies. They're Southeast based and there is not as much venture capital down here. There's more now than there was. And there are more eyes on the Southeast now because of the opportunities and valuations that I think investors are finally realizing are down here. Like it's much cheaper to grow a company down here. There's now much more sort of support network and the right pieces that you can stay here and build a company. You used to have to move to the coast, and now you don't. But at the time, we didn't have that. So we had the double whammy of like people, like capital-starved companies trying to innovate and grow in the Southeast, plus they were women. So, you got both of them. So trying to elevate those across these other networks was huge for us. Like having this group within the Angel Capital Association that we were able to just say, hey, we've got some good companies you should look at. And Next Wave Impact that I was involved with actually did follow-on rounds in I think at least 5 of our companies with JumpFund. And that's a national network. So that was and I didn't necessarily intend that, but they were all kind of impact layered ventures that already had a little bit of traction. And Next Wave said, sure, we'll come alongside in this next round. And then Mindshift actually, it's all about your network. So Mindshift's doubled down on a few of the companies as well. So it's all, and as we always say, it's all about the relationships. So, but at first it was drinking from a fire hose. You got to figure out how you're just going to like deal with all that deal flow and vet it quickly.
So, well, networks are huge, and that's kind of why we've spoken a lot about like community in some of our other projects. What's the goal with JumpFund? Where are you going? What's
exits that really? We actually had a founder speak on stage at our annual summit here for the Angel Capital Association that was last week in Denver. And she was with a very successful company now, but had, early stage angel funds. And she's actually a company that deals with FMLA, which is the family and medical leave that we have in the US. It's a little different than in the UK. It's been very hard to get companies to really focus on strategic ways they can retain their employees by providing good FMLA structures as people take leave. Anyway, she founded this company. Women really got it. She was seeded by a lot of female and angel investors, but she said, I do not think that, we are not going to be successful investing in women until we have the exits, until we have the success stories. And she said she wants to be one of those success stories. So we have a lot more unicorns popping up now. We have a lot more women as CEOs of some major companies. We've had some great exits. You've got Bumble. I mean, you've got a bunch of different, we've got several IPOs. There's a lot of companies actually in femtech, which is a whole new genre of companies that have grown by female angels seeding these women-led innovations because we get it. We get menopause interventions and apps. We get women's sexual health, products. We get reproductive health products. Other investors weren't getting those, but now it's this whole new category that's blowing up. And there are, I think I just read an article, and I can't name them all, but I think there are at least 5 unicorns within that space. Wow. That in the femtech space now. This is like overlooked innovation that women came in to fill the gap early on that now is being seen. So back to your point, this is not, our success is going to be in the success of these companies and being able to amplify that to really say, look, there is overlooked innovation and overlooked opportunity going on that you should take advantage of as venture capital investors. Like, this is not about handouts. This is not about diversity in the US. We have everything blowing up about investment in DEI right now. This is about opportunity that is being overlooked. And that if you don't harness it, you're missing out. You're missing out on actually lower valued companies that have a higher rate of success, given, these different markets that they're looking at. And I would say there's been a lot of studies that female-led companies are outperforming on ROI. That started to come to the fore just as we were starting our fund, so helped to amplify that message as well. But that has to get out, and the only way that gets out is if we have these ultimate exits that are great for our portfolios.
Yeah, so it really is those.
That's the end game.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Exits. I mean, I was speaking to Paul about his sort of like alternative exits that they're doing, where they're sort of instead of looking at like IPO and 10xing investments, they are linking up with private equity and going with a more traditional route, and building a startup to be even 3-5x profitable, solid business. Match them up with PE firms and allow VCs to get back some of their capital that way. So it's really interesting about like where these things are going and what the opportunities are going to be. But as you say, it's that you got to get the exits to kind of the proof is in the pudding, really. What's the scale of this opportunity, do you think, in the next few years? And how are you helping founders get towards exit?
Mm-hmm. So the opportunity is still enormous. There are, I don't remember the current number, 51% of the population are women, first of all. 80% of consumer decisions are made by women. So, both of those things are obvious and interesting facts. But the other fact is that women entrepreneurs have always kind of been here, but they've never really, a lot of them, up until really the past few years, have been able to crest kind of that, first $1 million marker of how do they scale their businesses. And that's really for just the lack of next stage capital. And we're talking about growth ventures. So about 30% or a little more, depending on your statistics you look at, of growth venture founders are women. So there's opportunity out there. I mean, some say as high as closer to 50%. I think in the U.S. Of all businesses started, 8% of them are started by women. So that's not always growth ventures, but if you back that out. And then there are more that are, sort of a dual founding team. So you might have a woman and a man on the team. And that just adds kind of a different perspective. So the opportunity is there, and they are also really coming up with different solutions than the traditional market has for things. So whether it's in industries that are directly adjacent to them, like femtech, or things like 80% of the consumer decisions that are made by women, they're thinking about it differently. What do I want to buy? What do I need as the consumer? And so, that is even including like cars and tech, if you can believe it. A lot of times they just hold the purse strings in the family, right? So the opportunity, I think, is there and completely overlooked. So where we're going then with that is going to be interesting to see if people pick up on that. Even in things like AI, like how are we really building AI right now? Are we building it with or without women, or with or without any other lens you might want to put on it? And if we are, then it's all going to be kind of for one sector, right, of people. And it's not going to really have the broad reach it could have. So I always just say more diversity of thought on any founding team is really important. And that includes gender, it includes race, it includes different backgrounds. Like, you're just going to see things differently. So that's opportunity. As how we're building to exits, it's really like any other VC, constantly helping them find opportunities like you were talking about that Paul Silva has. Where are some other pathways? Most of our companies are not necessarily positioning for IPO. They're positioning for some form of acquisition. A lot of them are starting to talk in this market to more PE firms as, one opportunity for liquidity for their investors. So that's coming up more and more. It's not a path that a lot of entrepreneurs necessarily want, because it doesn't seem like maybe the sexy path, or maybe they feel like it's gonna, I don't know, chew up and spit out their company and it's gonna be something different. Yes, and sometimes you just want an exit. We've had a couple companies actually had successful exits that way. We had an ADEX on one company, an EdTech company that with Next Wave Impact, and it was a great exit for our investors, and it was really actually a right fit for this company at that time. They were kind of in the workforce development space. She worked within the firm for like another year and then exited, and it was the right path for that company, I think. So yeah, looking at alternative strategies, we frankly right now in our first fund we have a 2-year extension going on, and so we need these exits. We need them now. So we're looking for how do we help facilitate that, whether that's next stage capital that could maybe buy out some of our holdings or whatever it is. So we got to get creative at this point. Second fund we have a little more runway on, but yeah, we have one company now that is considering IPO, has been the whole time, and that I think will probably happen for that company. So as we say in VC, there's one company that could carry your whole portfolio, and that's the one we're putting the big gold star on.
Oh yeah. They'll get a lot of face time, a lot of help and support. Speaking of support, we said we talk about the book.
Sure. Yes.
What is it? What's the 1-page summary?
Yeah. So Jump In it's women investing in women, growing our capital and impact. The title is Jump In, and it was really from wanting to tell the story of the how and why we started this small little fund in this small corner of the U.S. and how that has sort of had a ripple effect of joining with all these other women to build out more women as angel investors and more capital going to female founders. And so kind of that journey over the past 10 years is what I wanted to capture. I wanted it to be inspiration for other women who might be considering jumping in, as we like to say, and particularly those wanting to start funds or networks of their own and seeing themselves in other women. I think it's very important to always see yourself. VCs like entrepreneurs because they see themselves in them, right? There's a relatability factor there. So we have to do that for women as well, to have there be relatable people in this asset class and relatable people they could invest in, to feel like, okay, I can do this with my money. I can add value. I can invest alongside my own values, particularly, if you want to be investing in women. We don't say that all women invest in women, but it does seem to be a lens that we have that we tend to veer toward more often than not. So yeah, that's the crux of the book. It's a little bit of a playbook on angel investing too. So it's a lot of things, but as some people said, oh, I read these 2 chapters and these 2 chapters and they were really helpful. So it's on Amazon, it's on Bookshop, it's on all the places you can find it. So, and the cover is me jumping into the Arctic Ocean. It's not actually me, but it's here, I'll bring it over. I don't know if it's going to play well on, okay?
Nice.
But that is a rendition of me jumping in the Arctic, and it's this whole thing, like the risk taking we need to have. We have to jump into the unknown with a lot of this kind of investing, and then the back is invest in the change you want to see in the world. I know it's probably the opposite for your camera, but yeah.
That's great. And just quickly, what's the big dream with the book? What's the huge goal?
Yeah, for me, it's just amplifying our message.
Yeah.
And really encouraging more women to kind of demystify this asset class for them, have it be a doable thing, add it to sort of their overall portfolio strategy. By 2030, I think it's like women are going to have about $30 trillion in their own assets. And so we're representing a larger and larger force out there that really has not been harnessed at all. And so how do we get more women off the sidelines and moving their capital to things that they care about, building the next products and services they want to see in the world, and not kind of letting the larger markets that are frankly very male driven drive all of it. So, yep. Yeah.
Well, as you say, huge markets, huge opportunities. A lot of VCs should be listening up to what you guys are doing, and I guess the book that you put out there as well. Yeah, Kristina, thank you so much for taking the time and for coming on the podcast. If people want to reach out to you, follow you, where should they go? What should they be looking at?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on the channels. If you go to thejumpfund.com, there is a whole page dedicated to the book, and you can reach out there as well. We are not making any new investments with Jump Fund, so don't ask me for money on that scale. But if you want to collaborate on anything otherwise, I'm here. I'm the incoming chair of Angel Capital Association, so I want to make sure that people plugged into this network as well as a large professional network of doing this early stage investing.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Daniel.